Hello and welcome to episode 8 of For the Purpose Of, the podcast about trends, big ideas, and exciting news in the world of EdTech, helping you to consider the purpose behind your next EdTech integration. I'm Ron Hellman, and I'm joined by my colleagues
Sarah Wood
and Keith Tramper. We've got a big show for you today. Our big topic is student privacy and digital citizenship. We'll get into the EdTech curmudgeon, also known as So Ron, and resources from around the interwebs, and a few updates on professional learning opportunities for you. We're going to start out with an intro question. What is the last movie that you saw in a theater? Sarah, we'll start with you.
Okay. First of all, before I even answer this question, I have to say I'm probably that person that you would be embarrassed to go to movies with. I'm not afraid to bring a blanket. I'm not afraid to bring my heated scarf because I'm freezing in there, and then no one wants to sit next to me. So I have my personal space. It's actually kind of nice. I have brought a bag of snacks before, not going to lie.
I was going to say, there had to be snacks involved in this, sneaking those in.
Oh, yeah.
You hit up the dollar store before you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I digress. So the last movie, and I had to ask my husband about this because we couldn't remember, it was so long ago, but we think it was Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker before the pandemic hit, and now we just stream everything, and so I can be under the comfort of my blanket at home and not in public.
That is a good point. It makes you wonder, what is the theater experience going to look like in the next several years with everybody streaming and having to subscribe to 12 different streaming services for some reason.
Yeah, they've been saying that the movie theaters are kind of filled with only superhero movies or movies that relate to something nostalgic, like Top Gun or Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. So my last one that I went and saw was Dune. And I would just say, just because of the cinematic nature of that movie, and that's maybe for all these movies, is if they're really very well produced and have lots of eye candy, I guess I would say, like Dune, and great soundtracks, that's where they belong in theaters. So the only problem with Dune, those of you that have seen it, is that this was part one. I thought I was getting a whole movie. I got gypped when I went in there, and at the end of this, I'm like, that's it? What now? What now? I got to wait 2 more years to go back. So anyway, Keith, what was yours?
My last one was The Batman, which it felt like 3 or 4 movies in itself, but ultimately pretty good. And excited to go see Doctor Strange. You guys know I'm a Marvel person, so I'm super excited to go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness this weekend.
So we're going to get on to our big topic today. We're going to be talking a little bit about student privacy and digital citizenship. And this seems to be like a perennial topic, I think, with our schools. First, just about student privacy in general. One of the things that we're noticing and have noticed for a while is that there are so many applications and websites and that collect a significant amount of student data. We get a lot of teachers that want to have, their students use a particular website without much consideration for the sort of data that these websites are collecting about our students. And many of our students just have absolutely no idea that, for the most part, any free site that they might be using, the reason they're free is because the companies are taking the data that they collect, perhaps about demographics, their usage patterns that they have, and they're selling that to advertisers. So we always tell people, if your product is free that you have on the internet, you are the product. Your data is being sold. And I don't think a lot of our kiddos know really about this. The other side of this is digital citizenship. So this is as they are using these different products out there. You can think of the number one favorite app of all time for students right now, which is TikTok. And some of the other things like Instagram, and maybe their Finstagram, their fake Instagram that they give to their parents and don't tell them they have a real Instagram account, or Snapchat, whatever it might be, how they're using those things. And I think, Sarah will probably talk about too, is the long-term effects on students that are using these platforms to post things. All of us have recently had the opportunity to present to students about privacy and digital citizenship. And one of the things I bring up quite often to kids, because they just don't really think long-term, is that in my brain, Ron Heltman says, I don't think there's a lot of kids that can ever run for public office because all of the stuff that they may have put online. And even if they thought they were really good at hiding it, there are other people that know who this person is that is using some sort of fake account someplace. And those will definitely get bubbled up. And I don't think kids know that almost all the stuff's being archived someplace too, which is even more scary. So I must think, people that are as old as me, if we made the newspaper back in, the 90s, chances are that nobody would remember that after about, I don't know, till the papers are gone and in the landfill. Nowadays, this stuff lives forever. I don't think a lot of kiddos really quite understand that.
I don't understand what you're talking about, these newspapers, because I'm pretty sure my parents have still have clippings from the advance of when we made like the honor roll. So it was a thing. Yeah, and this is interesting because I feel like this comes up at the end of the school year where we talk about this or revisit this when I feel like the conversation, like it should be an ongoing one that we have and that should start at the beginning of the year. And don't get me wrong, I love coming in and talking to students about this and sharing different things that they might have not heard in their classroom, but I'm not a fan of when it's like a one and done conversation, because this is not a one and done conversation where anyone comes in, speaks to students and say, this is really bad, you need to be good about this. Like, I think it's a great Kickstarter conversation for those small conversations that can come after, because I don't think students really understand the gravity of what they do online now and how that affects them as adults. And I think the best example of this, and I'm not going to lie, is one of my all-time favorite YouTube videos is the David Goes to Dentist. Well, forever will have a special place in my heart because the phrase, "Is this real life?" often comes up at our house frequently, especially when my kids start rambling off about these YouTuber influencers that they're watching, Mr. Beast and Unspeakable. And I'm like, I don't understand, for one, the words that are coming out of your mouth. Number two, like, why would someone post some of these things that are just so ridiculously inane? Like, where are you going with this? And bringing up that conversation of how will this person feel 5 years from now? Sometimes it's a conversation of 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, but it can affect them long term. And I think Keith had said something about how even with the David Goes to Dentist, that he's now sold it as an NFT.
Yep, he sold it as an NFT. He's off to college on his NFT money.
Sarah, just one other wondering question too, because, well, for both of you, you both have the children at your house. What will your kids think about you posting pictures of them on Bookface or other places in 5 or 10 years? I mean, is that something either of you think about a little bit too?
My kids are a little bit older than Keith's, I know, and so, like, I'll get the Facebook memories that show up, and they'll be like, "Oh, look at me as a baby," and now they're starting to be some of those not-so-baby pictures, and my lovely daughter, who's 13, is becoming more aware of some of those, and so we have honest conversations about it, and I usually let her know if I'm going to share it, and sometimes she'll say, "Not that one. This one's okay."
That's great that you give them the space to like grab the steering wheel every now and then, right? And that you are not in total control of their digital life or their digital footprint up until the point where they start their own social media. I think that's a really important and sticky conversation of what's okay. Because obviously there's the elements of sharing baby pictures and whatnot, but there's also the kid shaming, the child shaming that you kind of see happen all over the internet, of kids doing like, little kids learning how their body even starts to work and their brain's not even fully developed. But here we are kind of shaming them and laughing at them for, the different mistakes they're making when they're 2 years old. Right. So I think, the conversation is an important one to have. And my kids aren't quite to that age, but it is definitely something on my mind as a parent. I try not to post things of my kids unless they're, accomplishments. And I see friends doing it too that will hide their child's faces or not refer to them by name.
Yeah, I've seen that too, and I think because we don't let my daughter have social media yet, like it's a good conversation for leading up to when you have your own. What do you want it to look like when it's out there, kind of thing. So that's my 2 cents.
One of the things that I often think about is I know that life as a teacher, when you're trying out new tools, you're looking for different digital things that you can do with your students to help engage them, open up new dialogue, find new content on the internet. But I suspect like most of us are probably just finding that content and saying, "Ooh, that's great. I'm going to share it," without any other thought to what that privacy policy for that tool or that content is. Like Ron kind of mentioned, these websites are taking a lot of data from you and from your students. And do you know where that's going? Is it a safe place for you or your students to go to? Um, is their use of data acceptable to you? And I've been encouraged, I think, by the recent trend in privacy policies for different apps, different websites to spell it out in plain English. Don't bury it into the fine print. So I guess I would encourage educators to take that moment before you send people to things, um, to look at the privacy policy, see what's going to happen to your students' data when they go there, or follow people who you trust, like Sarah and Ron and I, who do take the time to read the privacy policies before we recommend apps and such. Another one, we talked a little bit about creating a digital footprint for your own child, but what about for your students in your class? It's pretty frequent that we see pictures online of students in class, and I think that over the past few years we've seen a lot more awareness of, being conscious of which students can be photographed, which students can't, trying to be creative with your photo angle, catching just the backs of heads instead of the front, and trying to remove any kind of personally identifiable information out of photos. And just honestly, does it need to even be posted on the internet? Is another consideration to have there. But just being aware, I think, of I'm building a digital footprint for my students. Is that my role? And then lastly, I'm just going to share the Common Sense Census that recently came out from Common Sense Media, which is a great website for any kind of digital citizenship and internet safety and just about everything you can think of, for parenting and educating right now in the digital age. And I would encourage, all parents, all educators, even students to go and check it out, because it compares media use and device use before the pandemic to where it is right now. And there's some really interesting data. So worth a check out. And I wanted to ask Ron and Sarah, if you had to live without all your apps, but you could keep one, what's the one you couldn't live without?
If it's an app, it would have to be the ability to take photos. If you want to call that an app.
Yep.
I know. I was looking at my phone as you said that, and I was like, what would I pick? And I'm like, the two that I have that I use most often are just messaging and my camera.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing. What do you think that kids say? And I think it's specifically 8 to 18-year-olds.
Well, it's probably some sort of social networking messaging application.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say I'm putting my vote as Snapchat.
The correct answer is YouTube. They can't live without YouTube. And they're kind of showing like boys and girls tend to watch a lot of online videos as compared to using social media and video games. That's the primary thing that they're doing.
Are they all watching Huggy Wuggy?
What?
I don't know.
I know they made the news the other night again, this Huggy Wuggy thing, which is to me, it seems like another moral panic, just like, I don't know, kids eating spoonfuls of cinnamon, apparently, you know, or like the other moral panic that we saw too, kids eating Tide Pods, which apparently never happened. It was
Yeah.
just kind of made up, like a lot of times in media. I think that's probably back to the digital citizenship side of things, is really helping our kids understand uh, that they need to check more than one source, or don't get all their news from one entity, whatever that might be, because the reason all these social media networks work really well is because they tune themselves for engagement, and engagement usually means enragement. So the more that they can make somebody enraged and angry, the more engagement people have. Because when's the last time you had an argument with somebody about a very cute kitten? you know
Good point.
Yeah, it's more fun to argue about politics on the internet, because the louder that you yell, the more right you are, apparently. So,
Or to laugh at someone else's misfortune.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was the word that Ron introduced us to?
Schadenfreude.
I'd never heard that one before.
It's a good German word, means taking pleasure in the downfall of others, or whatever consequences somebody might have had. So,
Do you ever find yourself exploring new technologies, wishing that you had a friend or a mentor to explore with? You don't have to do it alone. Join our local EdTech community at I Am EdTech. You can connect with our local networks, consult with our team, stay informed, and check out our upcoming professional learning opportunities. Check it out now at bit.ly/IamEdTech. At I Am EdTech, you belong.
hello, EdTech curmudgeon. Yeah, so I've got another fun rant for you, and this is going to hit all of you folks that work in education very soon, if it hasn't already. And this is not an acronym for a dirty word. MFA, y'all. MFA. So you're going to start hearing this quite often as multi-factor authentication. MFA is just a way of authenticating that it is actually you using your account. If that's your Google account, your Office 365 account, your Active Directory account, whatever it might be. Schools are getting mandated by insurance companies to ensure that outside folks that should not have access to networks, we're going to try to help prevent that. And the way that we prevent this is a lot of times called two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. And we, in our organization, we see this quite often with a thing called account takeovers. So many times those will arrive via email. Somebody will get a link. They think it's an important email. They says, click here to open a document. They will go ahead and put in their username and password into another website. And all of a sudden now those credentials from that person have been taken over, and they will attempt to use it on our own systems like our Google accounts or our Office 365 accounts. Multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication allows a system to say, hey, this is probably not that same person that has been logging in. And it'll prompt you to say, hey, give me a 6-digit character that I'm going to send to your phone or to another device to be able to make sure it's actually you. So two-factor authentication does a really great job of preventing bad people from getting into our good systems by double authenticating you based on both your username and password. That's your first set. And the second set would be something you have. So something you have sent to you is including with that. So before you get all angry at your IT department, you have to understand that this is being mandated. They must do this because of insurance carriers. But the bigger reason behind this is so accounts don't get taken over. And this was just in the news yesterday here in Michigan. We had Kellogg Community College had a crypto locker or some sort of cybercrime that closed down the whole college, I think, for 2 days now, because it was one of these account takeovers that got inside and basically started to encrypt all their files inside the organization. So this goes quite far to help prevent those sort of things where you're not giving out your credentials to folks. We do get individuals that'll say, well, why has it got to be sent to my personal phone? you do have an option. And many times that option means you're going to carry around a little, probably a small, they call it a TOTP, which is a little generator that gives you a 6-digit code. You have to carry that on your keychain and type that number in. It's just a lot easier to do it on your phone. So I'm not going to tell you don't fight it. I'm just going to tell you it's coming. And it's actually a really good thing for you to make sure your account is secure. Just like, we give the example, if you're using your loyalty card at a grocery store, that's a method of two-factor authentication. Hopefully you have two-factor turned on in your bank account, because if you don't, one of these days you may show up to your bank account and find out that it's been drained. So it's really a good set of protection, and it takes very short amount of time to do that. So before you get all upset about it, just think it through a little bit and make sure you understand that this is just like going to the dentist every 6 months. It's really good for you.
Are you convincing yourself of that, Ron? You
Yeah.
love the dentist.
As much as I hate going, I just know it's good for me to go get a checkup every once in a while. And this is still just a good thing. As far as getting down to your students, I think that this is going to be a new normal for them going forward too. With most of their accounts that they have, they're going to have some amount of two-factor.
I always find this so interesting because it's been around for a while, and it's always been kind of an optional thing, and pretty much only your tech nerds or your privacy geeks were the ones that were using it. And it's just the skill level of bad actors seems to have increased so much in recent years. So I wonder how many of our listeners really know, like, did you know you have insurance in most cases to protect you from being hacked or crypto lockered? And that can be a really expensive thing. So this is a small thing that can prevent a huge upset in your school's life. I'll also add, I have a friend in cybersecurity, and I remember he talked with my students one time, and I remember him asking, what's your most important account to put multi-factor authentication on? So I'm curious, what do you think it is, Ron or Sarah?
To me, I think the most important one would be anything that has to do with your financial well-being. So if it's your bank accounts or, whatever accounts like that have to do with your money, because that's not replaceable very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That was my gut reaction as well, like your bank.
Yeah, and that's what most students said too. He was like, actually, it's your primary email account, right?
Yeah.
Because where do you go to reset your passwords for your bank account? It goes to your email, right? So that's a really important thing to protect.
If you're as security paranoid as me, that means you have several primary accounts.
That's fair.
True.
And hopefully you have multi-factor authentication on all of them.
Yeah. And alerts that show if somebody's trying to log into one of these things from somewhere else, that. Yeah, I do get them for one of my accounts that I have that I will not tell you the name of, where it is and what it's doing. But because it's a common name apparently in some other country, I get these, hey, somebody's trying to reset your password notifications, which I just ignore because it's not me, because I know it's not me, because they happen always like at 2 a.m. So anyway, just a couple other security things. We're going to talk a little bit about, as we call it, around the interwebs, and on that same vein of just about protecting your accounts and multi-factor authentication. One of my favorite sites that I use, and I subscribe to this, and it's free, by the way, is called Have I Been Owned, but it's Have I Been Pwned with a P, PWNED, which is hacker speak for owned. It's a culture thing with them. So the nice thing about Have I Been Pwned is you can put your email address in there, and when new security breaches occur, and they will occur, you'll be notified that one has occurred, and it'll tell you the details of that security breach. So there's quite a few examples in there. When you put your email address in, you'll be probably taken back a little bit about how many security breaches have occurred. And each of those breaches will detail, for example, was your password released or was it just your email account? Mostly these are email accounts that are tied then to passwords. And one of the things that we often tell people is please make sure you're not using the same password on more than one site at a time. Uh, and I would say even further than that, make sure you're using some sort of a password manager, if it's like LastPass or 1Password or something, to manage your passwords. Um, and use generators inside of even Google Chrome as an example. It'll say, hey, I can generate a new password for you. Almost every one of these incidents that we have, it's because somebody's using the same password across all their websites. So same password in emails, your same password that's at your Amazon account. People are ordering stuff and redirecting things, and there's really not a lot you can do other than make sure that you're keeping very good password hygiene, especially with your accounts. So that's the big one. And just take a look at it. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's an awesome site to be able to plug your stuff into. So, Sarah?
Well, I hope you would not have to use my tool to explain a password breach if that is the case. But the tool that I would like to share is Story Dice. And this is a tool that you might already be familiar with, the physical version of it, where it's literally dice that have pictures on it and they're used for telling stories. And I think these are great, especially for visual learners, and the fact that we're doing so many things digitally now. And then you don't have to have a bunch of kids touching a bunch of dice or have to worry about sanitizing them after the fact. But it's a great way to have story prompts. It's also a great conversation starter if you give a group of, I was going to say students, but it could be teachers even, those same 5 or 9 dice and create a, short 2 to 3 sentence story off the cuff, and they can be entertaining. So I think it's just a great way for students, and like I said, especially for those visual learners or students who need extra time or need those prompts to get those ideas going.
It's pretty cool, Sarah. I haven't seen that before.
It's fun. I mean, I'm a fan of the dice as is. I think Ron had given me a couple different ones. And I think that's what prompted me looking to see if there's any sort of digital version. And what do you know? There it is. The internets have
There you go.
everything's.
Yep. Awesome. All right. The resource I'm going to share is, I don't know if you're like me, but I have a lot of different things that come into my email inbox. Lots of different updates for professional learning opportunities, and specifically for computer science is a big one. So I know it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, and I decided to kind of put together a little like document that has, here's all the things that have been flooding into your inbox into one little space. So I'll put it in the show notes. It's a link to a Google Doc that just has, here's all the different offerings for computer science professional learning, especially for this summer. There's a lot of them going on. And I've got them kind of categorized so you can see which ones apply most to you, which ones are free, which ones cost money, which ones will pay you a stipend to go to them. And there's also like some opportunities for students as well listed in there. So go check it out. I'll make sure that's linked in the show notes.
Awesome. And what I love about how you had laid that out, like it's just so easy to read. But I also encourage any teacher, any listener to take a look at that, because even if you're a kindergarten teacher or a high school teacher, there are so many ways to integrate computer science into what you're doing, even if it just starts with integrating some of that vocabulary, and some of those learning opportunities can really help with starting that process.
That is a really great point. Yeah, there's a few workshops specifically aimed at K-5 teachers who maybe teach everything, and how you can integrate computer science into that. So
Awesome. Thanks for doing that, Keith.
yeah.
So I think we're just going to start to wrap things up here and share out some upcoming learning opportunities beyond those computer science ones that Keith had shared here. At ISD, we have the ongoing virtual make and takes, the May make and take, which is Tech, not to be confused per se with TikTok, but it's a play on it. We'll wrap up at the end of this month. So if you've been participating this year, all those virtual make and take responses are due by the, what is it, May 31st. Are there 31 days in May?
That sounds right. Yep.
I didn't have enough time to go through the poem in my head. So, so May 31st. And then we're also doing kind of a mini course this summer that kicks off in June. And that will include learning roadmaps, animated GIFs or GIFs, whatever team you belong to, and also a fun one, classroom cribs. So check those out. Those are all asynchronous. Do it on your own, whenever you want, wherever you want, and submit whenever you want. And then we also have PL in a Box, your professional learning in a box, which is coming this summer and is a take on your traditional subscription style box, but with learning and tons of great resources. Spots are limited for that one, so when that registration comes out, make sure you sign up quick if that's something that sounds exciting for you. That will be focused around STEM and computer science and how that integrates across all curriculum areas, across all grade levels. So that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, and we also have Design Thinking PDX is coming back. For those of you that were involved in it this time, you may want to share that with your friends. It is a newsletter that comes into your email inbox, and you choose how much you want to do with it. You can just read it if you want to. You can skip it if you want to. But if you want to earn sketches, it's a really quick and easy kind of micro PD way to do it. So you can just respond quickly on Facebook with what you're thinking about the topic that is presented to you. Or you can go and try it in your classroom and talk to us about how it played out with your students. So we're excited to offer that again. And we have a computer science workshop. We've been kind of teasing you with that for a while now, and we decided to move it to June 22nd. We were hearing that we have a lot of teachers who are struggling to get out of the classroom right now. So we thought if we moved it, into early summer, we might get a few more people to sign up. So if you're interested, that's a great place to come and learn about the computer science core concepts and learn a little bit about the tools available to you. And you walk away with a great robotics kit or robotics tool, all for free. So make sure you check that out as well. You can find all of these EdTech offerings at bit.ly/IamEdTech, all lowercase, no spaces.
All smashed together.
Yep.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. So this is it for the episode of For the Purpose Of. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already, as we'll start to have some fun guests on our podcast. So next time we're going to have one of our long lost friends from the world of EdTech from Hudsonville Public Schools. It's Craig Steenster, who used to work for Kent ISD. We have him on to talk about some parental engagement things. To get more information and links about things we discussed in the podcast, please check out the show notes. We'd love to hear from you, so we'd be happy to have you connect with us again, emailing us at edtech@kentisd.org or the fun bit.ly link, bit.ly/IamEdTech, again, all lowercase, all smashed together. If you like this podcast, please take a minute to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time on For the Purpose Of. This podcast is service of Kent ISD. It's produced by Ron Hauptman, Sarah Wood, and Keith Tramper. Our theme music is Neon Nights by Scott Holmes Music, courtesy of freemusicarchive.org. Our ad music is Vienna Beat by Blue Dot Sessions. Sitting in my tree yelling, "Hey everybody, I'm a bird, I'm a bird. Hey everybody, I'm a bird." I don't care if you're a bird. Go find another tree. You've got a whole forest full of trees back there. Why do you got to pick the tree next to my bedroom?